So I've talked about the Vivo Nex in the past and why I think that the camera pop-up system is less intuitive and more prone to failure, but Vivo did not stop there. And you know what? I'm not even trying to hate in this video. I think it's somewhat interesting that someone, at least feels like someone, is listening to my advice and watching my videos. But yeah, the Vivo Nex now has a successor with a dual display. Yes, that means a screen on the front and the back. Is this better? How does it work? All types of questions I'm sure you guys have. So without further ado, let's begin. So yeah, I don't know if you guys recall, but for the longest time when people were coming up with motorized cameras and the entire top of the phone, like Oppo lifting up, even every time you have to unlock the phone, the motors have to go up and down, I was not a huge fan of that. And one suggestion I kept making was, why doesn't a single company just make a phone without a selfie camera? Either just take the hit and say, you know what, maybe a good portion of the market doesn't care about front-facing cameras, or if you care that much about it, just add a small display to the back of the phone. Well, there's several smartphone developers that have done that in the past, but none of them quite like Vivo. With the new version of the Vivo Nex, you have a 6.4-inch display on the front, which is, of course, notchless, nearly bezel-less, no camera cutout, no camera hole, no pop-up, no motorized camera, barely a little bit of a chin at the bottom, but for the most part, an incredibly bezel-less design, where on the back, if you flip the phone over, you get a 5.8-inch display with a fairly large chin and forehead. You got their logo down there, and you of course have a set of cameras and this big LED ring light, which has quite an assortment of interesting features. So for one, this LED light appears to kind of interfere with the display on the back a little bit, kind of overlay with it slightly, but it also acts as the camera's flash, which lights up when you take low light pictures. One is a 12 megapixel lens and the other is a 2 megapixel lens, which is very low, but I assume just used for kind of data collecting. And also they advertise this ring to light up and flash to the beat of the music you're listening to, or also light up if you decide to rest your phone face down on a desk. Companies always come up with these options and these settings for people who want to put their phone face down on a desk, but I keep asking myself, who is doing that? Who just like wants to be notified if something goes on, but puts the display face down? If you are worried about getting notified, just turn it over. Just look at the screen. It'll light up. I don't know. But regardless, obviously there is no front-facing camera on this phone, so that means that if you want to take a Skype call, if you want to take a selfie, you simply have to turn your phone around and use the back of it, which looks like a fairly full-size display. Now, in the past, we've seen e-ink displays on the back of phones and even low-powered basic displays on the back of phones, but this one just looks like a full-on display with curved corners, LEDs. It's definitely not a very high-resolution display. Both front and back have 1080p. The only difference is the resolution in height. But yes, I definitely have a lot of questions about this method as well. See, my idea when saying that there should not be a front-facing camera if you want to go full all-on display and get as little bezel as possible, no notch, no camera hole, is just put a tiny display on the back for when you need to take a picture. So Vivo's approach is literally just make a phone on the back of this phone. In fact, it looks like you could almost use it that way. But Vivo even advertised the back display as something that could be used while doing things like gameplay. So you control the game with 4 fingers at once. You got 2 on the front display, and then you have extra controls on the back with another 2 fingers. Now, this could be an excellent breakthrough into gaming technology, but I can't help but think this probably isn't the future, and there's gonna be like 3 games in the entire world that are ever going to utilize that back panel for gameplay of some sort so that you can use 4 fingers while playing a game. It is running Android 9, but can you imagine just playing a game by moving things on the back while also moving things at the front? It's just kind of weird. It's a little confusing, but hey, you know what? I appreciate Vivo for being different and trying something a little unique, and also, yes, I prefer this method much more to the pop-up camera because I think that's more prone to failure. It makes cases more complicated, although when you think about this dual display technology, how exactly are cases gonna work? Because now you can no longer use cases that cover up the entire back of the phone, nor can you use very protective cases that put anything really on that side of the phone because you've got an entire display there. So anytime you buy a case for this product, it basically just has to be a bumper that goes all the way around. Other than that, there's not really a way to protect protect the phone if it drops on either side. Now your front display could crack or your back display could crack. Now the articles I've seen say that the currency conversions equates this phone to only costing like $725 or so. So it's not even that expensive a phone in the market that it's going to be sold in, but regardless, I can't help but think repairing this phone if either side breaks must be kind of cataclysmic. If you're gonna put display panels on either side of the phone, things could go poorly, very, very wrong, I think, during a drop. Regardless though, I still think this is interesting. This is not a phone I would like to try myself. Not to mention it has a 3500 milliamp hour battery, and with two displays, I'd be very curious to see how the software knows which display to activate. So does turning it over immediately activate the back display? Are there different modes where you can have both displays on at the same time, even though I don't think anyone would want that? But once again, it's just kind of nifty, and I also think it's just interesting to see how companies try so very desperately to do anything they can. As weird and as whack as the designs get, they'll do anything they can to get rid of that notch and to get rid of those bezels, and this is once again a very interesting approach. Not a phone I would use for myself, but interesting to admire and see companies be willing to make kind of awkward decisions like this that you probably won't see Samsung or Apple do, but maybe a more streamlined, optimized version would come out from a bigger company that sells in the US. Now, this phone also has a Snapdragon 845, so comparing that to managing all of these different things going on in the phone at the same time with two different displays would be very, very fascinating, but I'm probably not going to be able to get my hands on one for a long time, if ever. But either way, I'm very curious to hear what you guys think of the Vivo Nex dual display. I think it's fascinating. It's kind of cool that they're trying new things, and like, is that the process with the Vivo Nex? Is every step of the way they just like, what if we tried this? What if we tried this? What if they tried this? I just can't wait in 5 years for Vivo to make a display that literally like wraps around an entire phone. Like the sides are display, the top and bottom are display, and the back's a display, and there's just no cameras at all. Things could get really, really weird, and I'm okay with observing that from a distance, but not buying it myself. So all your guys' thoughts and opinions, let me know in the comments below. This is your Apple Sheep here. I'll see you in the next one.